Alright, so today we're going to try a styrofoam print, and what you're going to want to do first is get a scrap piece of paper from the Free Time Center. It has print on one side and it's blank on the other. And you're going to get a little piece of styrofoam that's 3x3. You're going to want to trace it onto your scrap paper so you know how big your design should be. And you're going to draw some sort of nature design. Remember that our theme and our subject matter is supposed to be focused around nature. So I have leaf tagboard patterns, which are probably a little too big to fit inside the square. I also have these texture rubbing plates of different kinds of leaves that you could use to look at to draw as well. Flowers, sticks, whatever you can think of that's from nature. And you're going to draw it onto the square. Inside the square, it can fill the square. Also, you don't want a whole lot of detail, tiny little details close together, because that's going to be difficult. So you don't want lots of lines close together. And I think I'm going to try this leaf. I'm just going to do part of it. I'll do a close-up of it. I'm going to trace the part that's inside the square. And then I'm going to add the veining for one. And that actually kind of almost abstracts this leaf because you're not real sure what it is, because I've got done such a close-up of it. And then maybe I'll draw a different flower maybe over here. So I'm going to draw a cone flower with lots of texture. The cone on a cone flower is almost hard and to touch. Okay, and so what you're going to do next is you're going to cut these out of your scrap paper, and you only have to try one of these. I'm just kind of doing a couple of different varieties just to maybe give you some ideas, and that you don't always have to do leaves or sticks or something. So you're going to cut these off, recycle your scraps, and then you're going to take your styrofoam printing plate and a piece of masking tape, and you're going to tape this drawing to your plate. Now this square is a little bit bigger than the styrofoam plate, so I'm going to trim this. And then you're going to tape this onto the styrofoam plate. Okay, now you can see I taped over my flower part right there, but that's okay. I can still see through the tape and see my flower. So you're going to tape on two sides. You don't need to do all four sides. It's just going to cause you a lot of headache. Okay, and now you're going to find yourself a dull pencil. So I can't use my mechanical pencil. You're going to find a dull pencil that has not been sharpened recently, and you're going to trace over the top of these. Now, you're going to want to pull your pencil through the styrofoam, pressing down into the styrofoam. So if you keep your pencil up on its point, it won't pull. You want to keep it at an angle and pull. So I'm going to put my pencil on this vein, and I'm going to pull through the paper into the styrofoam through this vein and trace right over the top of my pencil line. So you can see it tears the paper, and that's what you want. You know you've pressed hard enough if it tears the paper. So I'm going to add this vein. Now if I go up, straight up and down vertical like this, I can't pull through as easy. So if I come at an angle and pull through, it's easier. Where the tape is, it won't tear. The paper won't tear, and that's okay. I find it easier to pull towards me instead of trying to push away, so I turn my square as I work. Now as you're doing this, you're basically destroying that paper. Okay, so now I've traced over everything. This paper is completely destroyed. I'm going to carefully flip this over and peel this tape off the back. Now you want to press deep into the styrofoam, but you don't want to press so much that you go through the styrofoam. So this middle vein I did almost came through the back of my styrofoam, which that would be a really big mistake. So now these lines are pressed into the styrofoam, but they're not very smooth. So I'm going to make them smooth by pulling my pencil through them again a second time. But don't push again so hard that you put a hole in the styrofoam. You don't want to push all the way through to the back side of your styrofoam. Okay, so there's my styrofoam printing plate. I'm going to go ahead and complete this one, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've traced over my flower, my cone flower. Here's my styrofoam printing plate. I've actually made a hole pretty deep here and here, so I need to be careful not to press so hard. And you can see the paper's in pieces, and that's essentially what we're shooting for. Here's my leaf paper that's in pieces. These will get recycled. And now I'm going to just gently pull my pencil through these lines to smooth them out, but without making them so deep I've made a hole in the styrofoam. I've got to be real careful. You also need to get your name on these styrofoam printing plates. So what you're going to do is take a small piece of masking tape and you're going to write your name and the day you have art, day A, day B, day C, and then you're going to tape this to the back of the printing plate so that we know it's yours and nobody else's. Don't put the tape on and then write your name on it, because then you're impressing into the styrofoam, which may show up on the front. So remember, you take the tape off, put it on the table, write your name and the day you have art, then pull it off the table and tape it to the back of your styrofoam. It's very important that you do it that way. Okay, so now that I have my styrofoam printing plates ready to go, my name's taped to the back. I just kept these papers just to show you how beat up they really are, so that you know you did it correctly. You would recycle these, you wouldn't keep these. You're going to go ahead and roll out some ink. So I'm going to put some ink in a tray for you, and you're going to roll it out evenly across the brayer. And it's going to be hard to see since the brayer is black and the ink is black, but up close you'll be able to tell whether or not you've got an even coverage on your brayer. And it's important to have the ink go all the way across your brayer. So I flip my brayer over. Right here there is no ink right there, so I need to make sure I get some ink on there. A nice even coverage. Okay, and so that's better. And notice that I rolled this way in the tray and this way to get a nice even coverage. And then you're going to roll this on top of a blue placemat across your styrofoam printing plate. Now, if you have an even coverage on your brayer, you only have to go across once. So I don't know if you remember with the Collagraph plate, we went across one way and then the other. It looks like I don't have any ink right there, so I'm going to go ahead and go across the other way to see if I can get some ink in that spot. And I did. So then I set my brayer back in the tray, making sure that the handle doesn't fall down into the ink. And I'm going to, since I have a little bit of mess ink here, I'm going to move this out of the way so I don't get that on my paper. I've got a white paper here with my name on it. I print with my name up. I don't want to print with my name down. You set it on top and then you rub with your fingers. This paper is a little bit thin, so I can kind of see through it and make sure I've rubbed over the whole square. And then I'm going to pull this up. You can see I have a nice print there. So styrofoam, you can get a nice even print. Oops, I had ink on my thumb and I got it on this white paper, but since this white paper is bigger than the print, I could go back and cut that off. So I'm a little messy here. I need to wipe my hands off on my wet wipe, my baby wipe here. Alright, so there's one print. You can also try to do it on color, see what that turns out like. So look at this. I need to roll some more ink out onto my styrofoam, so I'm going to move it back over to the messy spot. So I'm not putting mess all over the blue placemat. I've got at least a clean spot where I can go to print. Set my brayer back in the tray, move my printing plate out of the mess. I've got some ink on my hand, so I'll use my baby wipe to get ink off my hands and my fingers. Alright, and so now I'm going to take my colored paper, lay it right on top, and rub with my fingers. You want to make sure that the paper doesn't move. The ink is sticky so that it will hold your paper in place for you, but you could move the paper if you're a little too firm with your pushing forward. So just be careful. And then once you feel like you've rubbed evenly over the whole thing, you're going to pull this up. And there's my second print. That's a nice print. So here, the ink seeped into my line. So my line wasn't either deep enough or my line is too thin and the ink seeping into there, but that's okay. Printing is not perfect, so it's imperfect and it has some happy accidents. And if you look, I kind of printed crooked, so I would probably trim this off so it wasn't quite so crooked. That's how you create a print from a styrofoam plate. Now, if you're finished with the styrofoam plate, you would throw it away. But if you wanted to use it again, maybe with a different color, you would get your baby wipe, making sure not to throw it away until it was completely covered in ink, and this is not completely covered in ink. You can use the baby wipe to get this black ink off the blue placemat. And then use it to clean off my styrofoam plate. Now, you want to be careful when you're cleaning off your styrofoam plate that you don't hold it in your hand and you press down and crack it. So I like to leave it on the table where it's nice and flat and clean that off. Now it looks excessively messy because I used black ink. If I'd used a different colored ink, it might not look quite such a mess. So I'm keep finding a clean spot on my baby wipe because we want to use these until they don't have any clean spots on them. All right, and so that's fairly clean. I think it's, yeah, that's as clean as it's gonna get. So if I want to do a new color now, I probably wouldn't want to do yellow or bright pink because I did black first. If you know you're going to do multiple colors, you're going to want to do your light color first and then move to your black and not do black first. And now I have black on my hands, so I can use this baby wipe to get the black off my hands so I don't ruin other papers. And that is how you create a print from a styrofoam